We're Canada. We're Canadians, eh? Eh? And we Canadians, we love our hockey. If there's anything that we love and anything that we know, it's hockey. And I'm going to talk about hockey in the heat of summer this morning. I want to plan to talk to you about hockey and use it as an illustration to illustrate a very, very important biblical truth. Father, today I pray for your Spirit, Holy Spirit, to be at work in our church, in our lives. I pray that this message that you have birthed in my spirit, God, that it would be something that would move into someone's life and heart in a very triumphant and special way today. In Christ's name we ask it. And everyone said, oh, I thought you were going to say A. Well, the hockey game is just about to begin. Both teams are lined up at the center line, and it's the face-off. Now, this morning, as you sit there, I want you to picture yourself at the face-off line with a stick in hand. You see this mic stand here? That's actually you. And you're here. I'm still too short to do this, but anyways. And someone else is over there, but you're at the face-off. The game is about to begin. The puck is just about to be dropped. And then on the other side is your adversary. No, it's not your brother or sister in Christ Jesus on the other side. But on the other side, if you're here, you have another adversary over here. Now, if you're to talk to Bible Peter tells you this about your adversary. He says that you must be awake and you better be alert because this enemy has a roar. He loves to intimidate this enemy on the other side of you. He loves to growl. He loves to put on a show. He loves to make you think he's bigger than what he actually is. He loves to cast a big shadow over everything. He loves to make you think that he's a fierce mountain lion. And he wants to win this face-off. He wants to win. He wants to grab that puck and he wants to run with it and go with it. Bible Peter also says this: you need to stand in your position. You need to be strong. Bible Peter says you need not quake or shake. Bible Peter says you got to hang on to your faith. Bible Peter also says you need to know there's a family, there is a team that is behind you, and they're edging you on. They're with you in this battle. They're with you in this game. They're with you in this fight to win the face-off. The puck that drops at the face-off line, we're going to call fear in its various forms. In your life, who is going to win these face-offs against fear? Because fear will drop in front of you. It's not if, but it's when. Fear will drop at any time. Fear may never give a notice that it's going to arrive. Fear is just there. Fear is what you'll battle with until the day you die. Bible John says this about fear. Bible John says that fear torments and fear agitates people. Bible John says that fear will punish you and pound you up all over. It'll pulverize you. It's a real stinger. Last Sunday night, I decided I would do some cleanup around my yard. And I was getting close to this object. I got this close to this object. It was a wasp nest. It was this big. If we had 5 services, by the end of it, it'd be as big as this building. That nest was. Yes, it was. So I reached over, and I was picking up. I was this far away. You know I got stung. Right here. Right on the end of my nose. And that bit so hard, I didn't know what hit me. I thought it was my wife at first, but she was nowhere to be found. Did you hit me, honey? I got bit, and I hit it so, my glasses, I just smashed myself right in the face. Like a good old Nova Scotian would. And my glasses went fine. I killed that wasp right on the end of my nose. And then I killed the rest. Actually, the nest was about this big. I just want to tell that story because I like it. But I was in pain. And I went in to my wife, tears in my eyes. Everything was engaging, the tears. And of course, I made it bigger than it really was. A little sympathy goes a long ways. Anyways, okay, back to this. John even tells us, something? John even tells us the cause of fear. This really hit me last week between the eyes, like a real stinger. This message. He tells us it's lack of perfection. Have you ever seen that in that scripture? I've never seen it before. You see, 1 John chapter 4:18 says the reason the person who fears is not made perfect in love. God's love. He's talking about God's love. We talked about it earlier in communion. You have not been made perfect, so there is the reason and the cause of fear. Lack of perfection. We're not perfect. We wrestle in this physical realm, in this earthly body and phase of our lives. We're not perfect. We try, but don't ever let lack of perfection stop you from striving to be made perfect through the love of God the Father. But really, that's why we struggle with fear, because we are not perfect people. We'll be perfect someday in heaven, but right now, we're not. God told Jeremiah to announce these words to his people. I know the plans I have for you. I have plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope, and plans to give you a future. Now, what if God's plans for your life actually were your plans for your life? Now, what would change? If you suddenly saw through God's lens, if you suddenly saw yourself through Christ and the plans He has for you, what if His plans actually became your plans? How would it change? If you could move towards this perfect concept and understanding, everything would change for the very, very best. Okay, let's give you some illustrations as we talk about this battle that we face with fear. Okay, I'm at the face-off line. I'm vacationing in beautiful San Diego. It's must be the late 80s. It's wintertime, and I'm vacationing beautiful San Diego. Suddenly, out of the blue, we drove down, by the way, fear drops into my life. That's not how He does it, does it? I had too much coffee this morning. Actually, coffee's wearing off. Could you get me another cup? And I fear the caffeine rush is leaving me. Just joking. So I was vacationing, suddenly fear. What if we start heading back to Manitoba and I get caught in a snowstorm? Like what? It's beautiful down here, but when I drive back, what if, could if, and all these things. Suddenly, I began to become very fearful. And it was ruining my vacation. And guess what the message was on when we went to church that Sunday in beautiful, sunny San Diego? The message was on snow. No, it wasn't. The message was on fear. You think God was trying to get my attention? Of course He was. My lack of perfection. And God was wanting me to get closer to His plan for my life, closer that I could see that I can be made perfect through Christ and striving. And so God was trying to get a message to me about fear. And that message was really geared to everyone, but I picked it out and it was fear. Speaking about fear, and it was a message that was really touched and ministered to me. Who's going to win this face-off against fear? It's now many years later. My son, Gary, is born. Years back, when he was born, he was called, you may not know this, Little Gary. We called him Little Gary. I was Big Gary. How the roles are reversed. How that bothers me. Another fear, but we'll get that somewhere later on down the line. But he was born with asthma. Fear. It was dropped into my life. I'll do it that way. Fear. The fear puck drops. And I'm concerned for his health. Fearful for him. He seemed to always have these bouts of asthma on Saturday night. Sunday morning is around the corner. I got to get up. I got to preach. And it was long, long nights on Saturday night. Fear. Who's going to win this face-off against fear? I want you to know that I battled this out at the altar and cried out to God and said, Lord, you've got to deliver me from this fear. It's wrecking. It doesn't really bring a lot of unity in the home. It brings unrest in the home as well. So, God, I got to get a handle on this. Fear is dropped in. I don't want the opposition, my adversary, to win the upper hand here. I have got to get the victory. Who will win the face-off? 2 weeks ago, I had to go for some tests. How many of you, no, don't raise your hand, but we all know. We all go for the tests. You know, something's not right. So you go, and they say, well, we'll run you through some tests. And we've all been there. So they run me through the tests. Now what do? I wonder if something is wrong. I hope I'm okay. We know that. Fear touches all of us. I had to wait. I'm not good at waiting. I had to wait. I'm not good at waiting. Did I say that already? Yeah, I did. Impatient. So you got thinking all these things, and then I go back for the results. They said I'm normal. I said, the Lord, they said I'm normal. I must have them fooled really, really good. They think I'm normal. Now, let me move on. For me, I am the happiest. The happiest time for me is when I'm mentally working hard and physically working hard. That's the most happiest that I could ever be. I get up each day and I go until I drop. Maybe you do the same. You get up early and get your coffee, you get moving, and you just go until you drop. But lately I've been noticing I've been dropping earlier. Is anybody else with me? You drop a little bit earlier. What's wrong with me? I need more coffee. Maybe not. So I said, it's July 1st, and I get up early July 1st. I had all kinds of stuff to do around my yard. And I said to my wife at the end of the day, man, I'm tired. Well, she said, you've been going all day long. And then she said the unmentionable things someone should never say to you. You're not as young as you used to be. No. How could she say that to me? Did she see the wrinkles? Did she see the gray? Did she see me when I was younger? How many ever get a little fearful of getting older? We all do. Who's going to win the face-off? I battle with it. It's not on my list of favorite things I'd like to become. Older. Wiser maybe, but not older. Taller maybe. Anyways, let's not go there. Fear. We all battle with it. We don't like the aging process, and sometimes we fear it. I can't remember. Did I throw a puck? No, okay. Thank you. You're listening. I wasn't listening. I didn't know where it was at. Another fear. You thought I fell, didn't you? Oh, I got to get a handle on this. I'm having too much fun. We all fear the aging process. Who is going to win the face-off against the fear of getting old? Here's what I'm learning. I'm learning this. As long as I live in this earthly tabernacle, I find myself at the face-off line with some fear to overcome. The pucks are going to drop. The enemy's going to stare me down. Who's going to win the face-off? And some would say, well, it's up to God. No, it's not. It's not really up to God. It's up to you. It's up to me. The provision has already been made. So really, it's up to us to this is pretty good, to lay claim to what God has already given to us. I know the plans I have for you. Do you think this is the end of life? No. We have eternity. I hope I can preach up there because I just love preaching. We're going to face times and bouts of fear as long as we live. His plans must become ours if we're going to overcome it. Someone said this, that distrust is the period of warning before the actual fear begins. I like that. Distrust. You start distrusting first, and then That's a warning sign. If you're not trusting, that's a warning sign that fear is about to really get a hold of you. Now I'm going to get through my text. Oh boy. I've preached for a long time, so I got a lot to say. Numbers chapter 12. Or is that 13? Yeah, 13. Numbers chapter 13. I want you to stand. That way I can get more mileage out of you. Stand. We're going to read Numbers 13, 1 to 3, and then you can stay standing. No. The Lord said to Moses, send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites. From each ancestral tribe, send one of its leaders. So at the Lord's command, Moses sent them out from the desert of Paran. All of them were leaders of the Israelites. All of them were leaders. They were people of high rank of the Israelites. Now we're going to jump down to verse 26. So they went up and explored the land from the desert of Zin. No, it's 21. I'll try the glasses on. They came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the desert of Paran. And there they reported to them and to the whole assembly and showed them the fruit of the land. They gave Moses this account. We went up into the land to which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit, but the people who live there are powerful, and the cities they're starting to shake. Their cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in that place, and the Hittites, and the Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live near the sea and along the Jordan. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. But the men who had gone up with him said, we can't attack those people. They're stronger than we are. And they spread out among the Israelites a bad report among the land they explored. They said, the land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are great size. We saw the Nephilim. You try it. Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak came from Nephilim. We seem like grasshoppers in our own eyes. And we look the same to them. You may be seated. Wow. You've read that before. I've read it before as well. Lots in it. But God said, let's go back to Jeremiah. God said, I know the plans I have for you. And here was God's plan for Israel. He said, I want you to explore what I'm going to give you. I want you to explore what I've already given you, Canaan's land. Verse 2 says there was a place of milk and honey. No bees, no wasps stinging the end of someone's nose. But there was no land like this land. A single cluster of grapes was so huge that it took 2 guys to carry it on a pole. And for 40 days, they explored. And for 40 days, they got out their iPads and they started documenting things down. This is what the land... Is that what you do with an iPad? I don't know. They started writing things down. This is what the land is like. It's wonderful. The fruit is glorious. The weather is great. But here's what happens. The luscious fruit and the fertile land, it was overshadowed by what? I want to be like a referee. What do you call those referee guys? No. I don't play hockey. Linesman. Overcome by fear. Suddenly they saw what they could not handle, and they said, we saw the good, but the bad was bigger. Giants are there. We can't. How can we ever possess this land? We're grasshoppers, and we know what grasshoppers are good for. We get mushed into the ground. We kill grasshoppers, don't we? That's what they said. That's what we are. Grasshoppers. Remember my first church? My very first church, 1980, whatever, 83. I had my Bible study in my home. We're studying God's Word. The Living Bible, and I've never found this spot yet where we were. But it said there that we are puny. We said that we are puny. This man stood up around my table in my kitchen and said, I am not a puny person. I said, I beg to differ. No, I didn't. I didn't say that at all. But I'll never forget it. I'm not puny. And that's right. We're not puny. But they were saying we're puny. We're grasshoppers. Now, from this story, here is what fear is guaranteed to do. Number 1, fear will shrink your world. Fear will shrink up your world. I went to a graduation ceremony many years ago here at the auditorium, and I heard one man stand up in giving his speech, and he said, I want to travel. You know, you get up and you're graduating and you're ready to go with gusto. You're going to tackle the world. You're going to accomplish great things. And he said, I want to travel the world. I love to hear that. The world. But you know what happens if you get older and if fear starts to grip your life? You'll be lucky if you travel your house. That's true. Your world gets smaller, smaller. Soon you'll just be traveling a phone booth. It gets smaller and smaller. Fear can so grip you that you're afraid to even go outside of your home. Fear caused these explorers of Canaan's land to have a very, very small, small world. We can't move out. We can't extend our tent pegs. Our world just got smaller. Secondly, fear will stink up other people's worlds. But not only will shrink your world, but you'll stink up somebody else's world. We read that they spread a bad report. They got everyone up in arms. Everyone began to stink. One bad apple does spoil the whole bunch, girl. That's a song from the Osmonds back in the 70s, for you, those of you that are my age and older know. But they sang it wrong. They said, one bad apple don't spoil. Forget it. A whole bunch of apples is ruined when one is bad. I'll say it that way. Oh yeah, we can stink up someone else's world pretty bad, can't we? Your coworkers, friends, relatives, your church. Fear is contagious. It's like the plague. Fear is contagious. You can just spread it so fast. Fear will stink up other people's worlds. Number 3, fear will scallop the future. Fear can make what is attainable and possible totally impossible. You know what God, I remind you again, God said, this is your land. But all they had to do was lay claim to title. But it scalloped and stalled them out of their future. Number 4, fear will scorch and snatch up your health. After this fear report was given out, they were all struck with anxiety. They were all trembling. Their stomachs were in knots. They're weeping. They wanted to take out Moses. Let's take out our leader. Kill him. Get rid of him. What happened to the luscious cluster of grapes, I'm wondering? What happened? No one knows. No one said. Probably rotted. They got so full of fear that they just didn't even think of the lusciousness and the wonderful fruit that was there. Researchers tell us this. 85% of emotional and physical ills are brought on by fear. 85% of emotional and physical ills are brought on by us being fearful. Number 5, fear will snip and cut away at your self-worth. Here they were saying, we're grasshoppers. God doesn't make junk. My Bible says that you're made in the image of God. You know what Philippians 2 says? You have the same attitude as Christ. Have the same mindset of Christ. Think like he thinks. He was positive. He was filled with joy even though he was going to the cross. For the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross. I got to think like Christ. God made me in his image. I'm really taller than I appear. I have value. Don't ever think of yourself as a grasshopper. Fear will snip away and cut at your self-worth, and so you think that you're nothing. You can just be like a person someone can just squish and squash into the pavement. That's not what the Bible's. Fear rips at the truth and replaces it with a gigantic lie. Okay, let me go back to it again. Who's going to win the face-off? When fear is dropped into your life, who is going to win the face-off? When I first went into ministry, man, I'll tell you, this is how many fears I had. Oh, man. I was scared to get in front of people. I was scared of doing something wrong. What's a pastor supposed to do? What's his job description? expectations. Do this, do that. I'm sure I had another one, but I can't remember what it was. All kinds of fears. I want to do my best, but boy, I had fears. In fact, there was one lady in my church, in my first church, she wanted me to be her private investigator. And I'm not telling you a lie, this is the truth. I'm a pastor, I don't lie. She said, my husband is cheating on me. And she wanted me to investigate. I said, I don't go there. I mean, this was something I didn't know what the expectations was for a pastor in my first church, but I was sure that wasn't in there. They didn't teach me that in Bible college. I said, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I draw the line somewhere. I want you to follow him. No. Oh, man, I had a lot of fears. I had a lot of issues. You didn't want to know me back then. My wife saw me through it all. She propped me up every Sunday and got me up there. This one time in the back of the church, this is too much information, but it's good for you to hear. And it's all in my past, all under the blood. One Sunday, I was just in the foyer. The people were all seated in church. And I'm standing in the foyer crying. My wife says, Gary, you can do it. You can go up there and preach. You can do it. I don't know what the issue was. I don't know. I'm just saying, man, I got issues. Had issues. I may still continue to have a few. So beware. Where was I? I have no idea. When I was appointed at my first church, there was someone, this stuck out to me. The district superintendent met with the body of believers. And he said, well, Gary's willing to come. We'll appoint him. Here's what a lady said. I wish he was older, but he's so young. Oh, I wish I could hear those words now. He's so young. I wish she could see me now, how I've aged. Maybe now she'd say he's okay. You know, I had fear. I'm too young. Wasn't that a stupid fear to have? We'd love to be young again. Oh, but enough about me. One of the first books I read in my first church was on fear. I thought it might be good for me. Overcoming Fear. And it was the book was entitled The Light Within You by John Claypool. The Light Within You. And he began to speak about fear. And here's what he said that I've never forgotten to this day, and that's like, I don't know how many years ago. I started ministry in 1983. You the rest. Do the math. He said, what did he say? He said, fear knocked, faith answered, and there was nobody there. Think that one through. Fear knocked, faith answered, and there was nobody there. And so someone said to him, yeah, but. I know what you're saying, but what if fear knocks, faith answers the door, and there is something there? Well, he said, you got a valid point. What if there's something there? And he went on to build his book, and the premise on the rest of the book, it was about discovering the fact that even if there's something there, as a child of God, there really isn't anything there. Think that one through. There may be something there, but really there's nothing. In light of who you are, in light of God's plan for your life, in light of God's love, in light of heaven someday, in light of the victory He'll give us, there really isn't anything, and there never will be anything there. And I love that. I've never forgotten it. And every time I battle in the flesh, and I said that we all struggle at times with fear, whenever that comes upon me, I think of that line. There's nothing there that my God cannot handle. There's nothing there that God cannot get me through. He'll give me the victory. He'll give you the victory. Who's going to win the face-off when the puck is dropped? I subscribe to Leadership Wired by John Maxwell. Recently, he wrote an article, 9 actions. I can't get this thing. Anyways, 9 actions you can take to face and overcome fear. And really, this is a little while ago. I really love those 9 points he makes. So I, I, I want to share with you those 9 points, but not this morning. But I'll share with you just 2. And then the Sunday after next, Pastor Vern speaking next Sunday, and then Sunday after next, I'll give you the other 7. And I'll sprinkle in mine to make it a good message. My thoughts, a little humor there. First, what is the first one? He says, discover the foundation of fear. A good action to take to overcome fear, discover the foundation of fear. Here's the truth about a fear. Most fear is not based upon facts, but most fear is based upon feeling. 27 years ago, I was in San Diego, I mentioned earlier, sunny California. I was afraid that I might not get back through the snow. 27 years ago. I'm here. I made it. I don't even think I saw a snowflake on the way back. Where is it? I'm sure I'll see one. Paranoia or what? You see one. Maybe there's millions more flakes coming when you see one. I feared for nothing. Think about all your past fears. How many have actually come true? Might be good for you to document this afternoon in your quiet time. How many fears have in the past have actually come true? Someone said that fear and worry are interest paid in advance on something that you may never own. Fear and worry are interest paid in advance on something that you may never own. Aristotle said fear is pain arising from the anticipation of evil. We anticipate evil, anticipate something's always going to go wrong. And so we fear. What if? Now this is really, I gotta tell you, this is really, really good for me. This is my message. This is for me. I feel like Cher. For me. Remember Cher? Pastor Cher. I'm hyper. I've always been that way, and with years, it gets worse. I'm a hyper person. Hyper people jump to conclusions very, very fast, especially if they're on coffee. They do. I don't ever take on those booster juices, whatever they are. I'm scared of those things. Last week, I got behind a Mercedes CL something, 612 horsepower. I put that thing right to the floor. Man, did I move. Hyper people like to move fast. So I know that's the way I'm made. I jump to conclusions very, very quickly. And so I'm the kind of person that says, what if? Should it? You know. If you're like me, that's kind of, you just jump. Now my wife, she's sort of like Doris Day.
Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera, what will be, will be.
That's my wife. Her favorite line is, Gary, would you settle down? That's her favorite line to me. She's so calm. She's so cool, so collective. And that is why God put us together. Hey, that's why God put us together. We're a good team. She balances me out. But if you're the hyper type of person, you know what I'm speaking about. You kind of jump to things, and so you can jump into fear and jump in. I have to deal with those things all the time. Maybe if you're like me, you constantly find yourself battling with, not jumping to the end zone yet, not jumping there yet, just relaxing. Maybe you just need to be free to enjoy the moment. Avoid hyperventilation. Go ahead. You can win the face-off against fear. Discover the foundation of fear. Number 2, he says, admit your fear. I'm going to close. Admit your fear. It's okay to admit it. I'm admitting it in front of you that I battle at times with it. And I'm overcoming them, and I'm sure there'll be a few more at times. As I said, it'll drop in my life like they will with yours. But James chapter 5, he talks about what? He talks about confession. Now, we've heard the line that says, Confession is good for the soul. If you check it out online, there's actually one other word that's supposed to go in front of that. Open confession is good for the soul. And I never knew that until last week. Open confession is good for the soul. I just found out last week that Doris Day was saying, "Que sera, sera." I thought she was saying, "Que said on." I'm always learning new things. I said, well, it sounds right to me. She said on. What will be, will be. My wife says, no, it's que sera, sera. Just always learning new things. Marvelous to be me. Confession is good for the soul. Actually, open confession. Confession is open admittance, confrontation, and then taking the necessary steps to properly deal with what you confess. How do I deal with this exposed? Now, I'm admitting I have this fear, it's in front of me, and I'm like this, and who's going to win the face-off? I admit I have it. Now that it's exposed, what do I do with it? I need to analyze it. And when you do that, you give yourself permission to go into an open space where you can assess it and analyze its accuracy. You eyeball it up. You look fear squarely in its face. You rationally dissect it. Here's a line that I wasn't quite sure I wanted to say, but I'm going to say it. You will always find it to be unfounded. You'll always find that fear to be unfounded. What do you think? In light of what the Bible says about us, you'll find in His plans for our lives, you'll find it to be unfounded. And then you call upon God's grace and God's mercy to help me through this. Then you shut the fear off and launch into the future. If it's unfounded, let it go. If it's unfounded, don't let it destroy your life. I want to close with reading the last part of what 1 John chapter 4. We read a bit of it during communion. 1 John chapter 4, verses 16 to 19. Just listen to these words that God says to us. And we know and rely on the love that God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in him. This is how love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. In this world, we are like Jesus. There is no fear in love. But perfect love drives out fear. There it is, that perfection, that state of perfection that God desires us to launch for. Oh, if you can just gravitate and get closer to that perfected state. But perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. The one that fears has not totally grasped how deep and how wide and how huge God's love is for us. And so I will wrestle with some, and you'll wrestle with some in the days ahead. And I hope that I can just sit back and say, God, I want to be perfected in your love. I want to understand your love, your marvelous grace and your compassion for me. I want to see how big it is, how deep it is, how wide it is, how powerful it is. And I want to submerge myself in your love. And when I submerge myself in your love, I'm becoming more perfected in my life. And then I begin to be the kind of person you want me to be. And then I can get up on my feet and say, fear will not dominate my life, because I'm living in the light and in the love that God has for me and for you. Let's stand. Oh God, so I pray this morning for my brothers and sisters as we walk this road, as we journey through, as we come up against obstacles. And Lord, the Bible speaks to us. Peter speaks to us about our adversary. He wants to win the face-off. But Lord, because of your power, greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. And when we just saturate ourselves with God, we'll win every face-off. We'll win every face-off there is. We'll become more perfect in understanding your love. Yes, Lord. If you're here this morning and you need someone to agree with you and minister to you and pray for you, just step out. Meet us here at the front. Altar workers, you can be ready to come and pray for people that need God to do something great and something marvelous in their lives.